Hello everyone and welcome to part 2 of my Steam Deck review. So we were going to focus this part on emulation, but we do have some addendums from part 1. I did forget to do Resident Evil 2 Remake. So here is Resident Evil 2 Remake running on the Steam Deck at 720p and high settings. And yeah, it runs okay. Again, similar to PlayStation 4 and Xbox One, so 60 FPS at 720p, which is the, 800p is the resolution of the screen, 720p for the capture card when it's running on an external screen. But yeah, it runs reasonably well. Still a nice looking game, but the RE engine is pretty good. Again, it is Steam Deck verified because it only just got Steam Deck verified with the latest update. And I know a lot of people were complaining about the update removing the DirectX 11 version, and it did add ray tracing to the game. Obviously, there's no ray tracing here. That's why it's running so good. But yeah, Resident Evil 2 runs fine. I should also point out that the other game that we couldn't get running was Deathloop. Yeah, so Deathloop couldn't get running. It's listed as Steam Deck verified, but this is what happens when you try and load it up. You just get an infinite loading screen. So a loop, in other words. A death loop, in other words. So there you go, Deathloop. Apparently if you turn off the Steam Deck frame rate limiter, then it will load up. But should that really be Steam Deck verified then? Because surely Steam Deck verified means that it will... It does actually do something eventually, but you can never get past this screen. It just kind of freezes here. There you go. So you get the Bethesda logo, and it's running at like 480p as well. It's running in a big box, so you get like you can see how small the logos are, and you can't even read any of the text. But then it just goes back to that infinite loop of death. It's the best thing I can call it. So if you're using the 30 FPS cap in game, apparently this is the infinite loop screen that you can never get past. But apparently if you do that, if you do unlimit the frame rate from the Steam Deck and then use the in-game frame rate limiter, apparently it will work. But then should that be verified then? Should it not have the exclamation mark beside it? It's a bit of a weird having the green tick beside it and then it not working. But anyway, we'll move on to emulation then. Okay, then we will start with one of the most difficult games to emulate on the Gamecube. This is Rogue Squadron 2 Rogue Leader, developed by the legendary Factor 5. And again, this is running on the Dolphin emulator. We are running EmuDeck as a front end. And we've got, it manages all the various emulator installs. So you install the emulator on the Linux desktop, and you can install EmuDeck so that you can play the games through the game mode, as it calls it, through the UI, the Steam Deck UI there. Yeah, and you install everything at the back end. EmuDeck makes it easier for everything, just to place all your ROMs, etc. Your legally obtained ROMs, because, you know, look, I'm not your father, right? Okay? I mean that literally. I don't care where you get your ROMs, of course. If you want to illegally obtain them, that's up to you. But yeah, Rogue Squadron 2 Rogue Leader then runs really well via the Dolphin emulator. This is a tricky one because years ago, high-end PCs couldn't run this. It's not a locked 60 FPS. It is 720p, which is fair enough. I will point out one thing to get this game running. If you see it running with black sort of squares at the sides, what to do is go into Dolphin on the Steam Deck. You see you'll get frame rate drops whenever it transitions to a new scene. It transitions to this cutscene, but it looks a good looking game. This is, we're going to fight the TIE fighters now. And you see it just dips a little bit and then comes back at 60 FPS there. You do get that occasionally through the game, and the frame time isn't the most stable, but it is good. I mean, it's as good as the Series X. I mean, the Xbox Series X could run this in Dolphin, and again, that's pretty impressive because we've seen high-end PCs struggle to run this in the past. Again, but this is really impressive with running on the Dolphin emulator. GameCube games in general run fine. So we'll take a look at some more GameCube games. Take a look at Mario Kart Double Dash, shall we? Right, so Mario Kart Double Dash then, another 60 FPS GameCube game. Interestingly, there was more 60 FPS GameCube games than PS4 games. I always find that an interesting stat, but this is another one, and it runs okay. Now, I'm a real man, so I'm playing as Peach and Daisy, because that's what real men play as. Don't know why it is, that's just what I'm playing. But then again, 720p, again, running Dolphin emulator once again, it's fine. Runs perfectly fine. You get the odd hitch here and there, but other than that, should be fine. Should be better the second time you run it there. Mario Kart Double Dash is quite a fun little game. You just hit the babies. What kind of scum are you, Daisy? Was it Daisy or Peach that hit the babies? One of them hit the babies. Oh no, Peach is gonna. She did it again. She hit the babies again. She's just ramming babies now. Is Peach. I think it is her own baby, because it's baby Mario and baby Luigi, so yeah, that's creepy anyway. We'll move on to something a bit more wholesome then. Okay, now it wouldn't be an emulation video if we didn't take a look at Timesplitters Future Perfect, and it has issues here. This is Scotland the Brave that we're doing, and again, it can hit 60 FPS, another 60 FPS GameCube game. And it's okay. I mean, it's not as good as the Series X running this, but this is quite, again, another quite taxing game. There you can see the frame rate is kind of all over the place, and the frame time is just not good at all. The Xbox Series X ran this a lot better than this. But yeah, I mean, it's okay. Bit of dips. It's playable. I mean, it's playable with dips. It's more playable than it is on other devices. But again, it's not as good as things like the Series X or the PC. But it's interesting to see why this one can't run. It's a bit weird because Rogue Squadron is normally way more taxing than this game. What I've found on other devices, it is just a little bit strange there that it just can't hold it. You can just see there's the frame time spikes there, and it doesn't feel smooth to play, unfortunately. And this was one of the only games that I found that wasn't that smooth. Most of the other GameCube games were fine, even the more taxing ones, like we said. But we'll move on and we'll check out Resident Evil 4 on the GameCube. Right, so Resident Evil 4, I just kind of threw this one in there. If you want to play Resi 4 on the Steam Deck, you could just get the PC version. Probably run better. I mean, Resi 2 runs better. I'll show you the cutscene in the village, because cutscenes are in real time on the GameCube. But it's just thrown in there just to kind of test it out. But it runs okay. This is just a 30 FPS game on the GameCube. Frame pacing is reasonable. But again, if you want to play Resi 4, then you see how well Resident Evil 2 runs. Resident Evil Village is also Steam Deck compatible, should be fine, should you wish to play it, but I haven't tried it out yet. I just haven't tried that. I didn't have time to download this before this review, but yeah, if you want to play Resi 4, get the PC version. The Ultimate HD version is not, I don't think it's listed as Steam Deck compatible, but it should do fine. We're just kind of throwing this in there for the GameCube emulator, because it's always an interesting test of stuff. I'll smash that window before they get that. So let's move on to PlayStation 2 emulation. This was where the Xbox Series X had trouble, so let's see how the Steam Deck goes with PS2 emulation. Okay, so we're moving on to PCSX2. This is PCSX2 1.7. So this is the nightly builds. Again, you can update these quite easily by going into the Steam Deck OS. It does offer a auto update service as well, which is pretty nice. This is 720p, and again, it is targeting 60 FPS. It doesn't quite hold 60 FPS, but it is playable. So this is, again, Dad before he became a dad. Did he become a dad? Didn't he kill his son and wife or something like that? I don't know. I never really liked God of War, to be honest with you, because I was never a fan of QuickTime events, so I never liked the classic God of War. I preferred the God of War 2018 was better. So out here you get a few dips. You can see into the 50s here, which I think was the same on the original hardware, if I remember. It never ran at smooth 60. Again, this was the only PS2 emulation was the only one. We might look at the Xbox Series X again now that our PC or PCSX2 has been updated. But yeah, so this is the 1.7 version. We are using EmuDeck as the front end, so we're not using like the new front end that you get in PCSX2 1.7. We might check that out as well on the PC. There's things there that are stopping me from doing that thing, but I could never do the QuickTime events. I could never do the repeated circle presses in the original God of War, so I was never a huge fan of that. But then their dad, before he became a dad of the boy simulator, God of War 2005, was it? So it runs reasonably well on the PS2 emulator there, 720p. I don't think there's any other settings. We're not using any other custom settings. This is just put the BIOS in for the PS2 and loaded it up, and away it went there. But anyway, we'll move on to Japanese Silent Hill 3 for some reason. I don't know why, I just ended up legally obtaining the Japanese ROM. I can't do this button press here, so we'll skip this. Right, so Silent Hill 3 then has an interesting frame rate graph. This is the Japanese version. Just picked this at random because I liked Silent Hill 3. Like, this is in real time, at least, this cutscene. Not pre-rendered. Like Resident Evil 4 on the PS2 has pre-rendered cutscenes, but yeah, you've got the evil bunny in the creepy amusement park to wander around. I don't know why. I never really played Silent Hill 2, to be honest with you. That's my PS2 confession. Just messing around with the controls, running around as Heather. Her name was Heather Mason. It was Harry Mason's daughter you played as in Silent Hill 3, if I remember correctly. But I remember playing this one back in the day. I do have Silent Hill 2, but I've never really played it. Just missed out. Played the original, and the original was awesome. So see, it's in Japanese. I don't know what she's saying. I can't read Japanese, unfortunately. I like the real-time lighting there that you get. That's pretty cool on the PS2. Anyway, despite the frame time being all over the place, it actually runs reasonably well. I think this is how it ran on original hardware anyway. So that ran reasonably. It's pretty reasonable. You can turn the torch off if you want and just have darkness. You want perpetual darkness if you want to make it scarier if you want. I don't know where to go. I don't remember where to go. I just played the intro to the game, but it does run okay. I fought a few enemies and I think I've lost in the darkness anyway. It's not really a graphical glitch. That's just me messing around with the controls, trying to figure out where to go. But anyway, we'll move on to something else now. Right, so we're moving on to Timesplitters 1 then, which was a PS2 exclusive at the time, and yeah, this runs perfectly fine. Now this is the PAL version, so we're also demonstrating the other feature of the Steam Deck, which is your ability to change the refresh rate. So we can change the refresh rate on the screen to 50 Hz, which is nice, because then I shot the window frame instead of shooting that dude. But anyway, but yeah, so we can, it's not a smooth 50 FPS, but it doesn't have to hit 60, so we can set the refresh rate to match the frame rate, which is nice. So we can set it to 50 Hz, we can set it to 40 Hz as well. It goes as low as 40 Hz, but we can use that Steam Deck screen feature to play European games, which is nice because PAL games, they ran at a higher resolution, but they ran at a lower refresh rate. Like in US, it was what, 480i at 60 Hz, and then it was like 5 something I can't remember what the exact resolution was. But PAL games always ran slower at 50 Hz, hence why the 50 FPS is here. But the good news is with the Steam Deck, of course, is we can change the refresh to match this, and we can use a per game profile. And because we're using EmuDeck, Timesplitters does have a profile, which is nice. So we can use that, which is pretty nice. It's pretty weird seeing like Timesplitters and Rogue Squadron 2 Rogue Leader in your Steam library. Bit weird, but you kind of get used to that in your Steam Deck library, and I do like that. So EmuDeck just makes it easier just to use the Steam front end as your emulator front end as well. You can use Emulation Station as well if you want. I use that for the older games. And look at this one with the they've even got even this is the China one that's and they've even got like the kitchen staff are armed in the Chinese triads here. You know, even the chef's got a gun here. I don't know what it says about that in Timesplitters, but yeah, even the kitchen staff have guns there. But anyway, we'll try Timesplitters Future Perfect and see if it runs any better than the GameCube version. Right, so once again, we're using the second level, Scotland the Brave. Once again, it doesn't look as good as the GameCube version, but I think it runs better. I mean, the frame time is kind of weird and all over the place, but I actually think it runs better. It's smoother. It feels a lot smoother. It was a lot easier to shoot that guy there with the sniper rifle, and that guy in the PS2 emulator than it was in the GameCube emulator. Now, the real PS2 hardware does have dips, and even in the PC version on PCSX2 on a 3080 Ti and a i7-12700KF, look, I'm even nearly able to shoot that dude there before it gets blown up by the plane there. So yeah, Timesplitters Future Perfect does run a little bit better on the PS2, which is nice to see, really. Again, it doesn't look as good. I think the GameCube version was way better graphically. They're both being scaled to the same resolution, but the GameCube version I think was running certainly higher graphic settings as well. You still get that bug where you can see the lights through things, but I think this is just smoother to play personally. But yeah, so it runs okay, pretty impressive. Being able to play this on a handheld, I think. Right, so a quick look at PlayStation 1 emulation. And obviously, if it can do PS2 and GameCube, should we say, emulation, then it should be able to do PS1. And this is what I mean about issues with forcing it into widescreen. You can see how the edges of the screen, everything looks all blocky and kind of weird. This is DuckStation that we're running for the PS1 emulation here. And DuckStation, probably the best PS1. I just rubbed poor Tony face first into the ground. It's Tony Hawk's Pro Skater, by the way, in case you're wondering. Oh, he's dead again, Tony. Jesus, Tony, get up and get on with it. But yeah, so I mean, again, this is what I mean. You can see the edges of the screen been fading in and out because this is running in widescreen with a sort of widescreen hack there. All the Steam games by default do that. You can go into DuckStation and change it, but I decided to show you what it looks like. So yeah, PlayStation ROMs shouldn't really be a problem, to be honest with you. So yeah, there's really nothing to see here. Nothing really spectacular about Tony Hawk's Pro Skater. It runs fine, as you would expect. Right, so of course all the 8 16-bit consoles will run fine. This is Terminator on the Mega CD. That runs fine as well. Mega CD 32X or the Sega CD. So Mega Drive games are pretty much flawless, as you would expect. Super Nintendo. There's no real point in discussing these too much in depth because, you know, as expected, these run on anything. These will run on virtually any device. N64 also does fine. I haven't captured any footage for that, but I love the soundtrack for this game. This game's amazing. This is my favorite game on the Mega CD, in case you were wondering. It's got an amazing soundtrack. You should check it out. It's just a pretty basic sort of run and gun game, but other than that, the soundtrack is incredible. It really takes advantage of the CD audio capabilities of the Mega CD. Hence, that was one of the reasons why you wanted a Mega CD, was for the. But I think this one's really underrated. I really like this one. Shoot that Terminator in the ankle there, and then shoot this one in the head there. So there you go. That is the Steam Deck. It is an amazing emulation device. It does have support for things like Yuzu and Semu, but I haven't actually ever tried them yet, so I don't know what they run like. The Switch and the Wii U emulator, in case you're wondering what they are. Just jumped into that Terminator there. But this game is incredible. I love this little game. It's cool playing it on a handheld now. It is a bit weird playing Mega CD games on the handheld. I have it on the Mega Drive Mini because I modified that as well. But yeah, it's pretty easy to get emulation up and running. I won't do a guide on how to do it because the guides go out of date all the time as new versions. I'm using EmuDeck. We're using RetroArch for the Mega CD emulation and the Mega Drive and the Super Nintendo, so that's fine for them. Whereas the GameCube emulator, I just use Dolphin for GameCube emulation, which is the best one, the standalone version of Dolphin. It is easy to find. You just search for it in the emulation category in the sort of. It should be in the apps section of the desktop mode for the Steam Deck there. So you could go in and search for that. I won't show you how to set it up because there's plenty of guides out there. There's too many guides out there for my guide, and the guides tend to go out of date, so you have to keep your guides up to date as new versions of the emulators are released. But the good thing is the Steam Deck allows auto updating, which is quite nice. So you've got that at least. So you can boot into desktop mode. It's quite easy to boot into desktop mode. It's just in the shutdown menu, and you've got boot into the Linux desktop. But it is quite self-explanatory how to install them. But the Steam Deck is very impressive. And once you've set it up, once you've set up the emulators, you can just do it in game mode and just launch the games from there. But anyways, so that is all for this video. So thank you for joining me, and we'll see you again soon. And goodbye.